Two Chinese researchers have been accused of smuggling a deadly fungal pathogen into the US, which was capable of destroying their wheat crops. Now, this has raised serious concerns over the security in our food systems and also the emerging threat of agroterrorism. Hello and welcome to Drishti IAS. My name is Saloni Nankyoliar, and today we'll understand why is this a matter of global concern. So what has happened is that the FBI arrested two Chinese researchers who had come to the US for academic research, but it is said that they smuggled with themselves a deadly fungal pathogen called Fusarium Graminearum, which was capable of destroying their important crops like wheat, barley, maize and rice during their critical growth seasons. And that is the reason that the FBI even went ahead and called this a potential agroterrorism weapon, because this could have caused a disease called Fusarium head blight that could have affected their wheat crops. Now, this incident has brought a very important term to the headlines, which is agroterrorism. What is agroterrorism? Agroterrorism is made up of two terms, agriculture and terrorism. And agroterrorism is a situation where biological pathogens are used as biological weapons to destroy the crops, livestock, food supply and everything related to agriculture. So what kind of pathogens are used? Fungi, bacteria, viruses or pests. And what kind of implications does agroterrorism have? It has serious agricultural and health risks. How agricultural risks? So for a country that is heavily reliant on agriculture, for example India, where the agriculture sector contributes close to 17% of the GDP, if a country like India will have to face agricultural terrorism, it is going to have devastating effects on the food security of the nation, because there will be food shortage, there will be increased price rise, and in turn food insecurity is going to go up. So this is a very serious implication that agroterrorism has. Then it also poses serious health risks. Now, why health risks? Because we are talking about pathogens here. Pathogens cause diseases. Now, when these disease-infected crops will be ingested by humans, it is very likely that humans can also get affected. So, this is the reason that these agroterrorism incidents also pose serious health risks. But why are they in news so much? Why do they keep happening so much? Because they are difficult to detect. Why? Again, because pathogens are microscopic, they are not visible to the naked eye, they can be easily smuggled, and that is what happened in this incident also, where these Chinese researchers were able to smuggle the pathogen from China to the US without being detected. And they can easily weaponize our food systems. How? Because they affect the staple crops of a country. For example, here, this Fusarium Graminearum was capable of destroying wheat, barley, maize and rice, all staples of the US. And in agricultural terrorism, especially staples are only targeted, because only then you will be able to cause food insecurity in the nation, because the staples will have devastating effects. The staple production is going to go down, the price is going to go up, and in turn, the food insecurity is going to be prevalent in the attacked country. And then they are cost effective, because you do not have to build any expensive nuclear warheads. They are cost effective. It is just a pathogen which is capable of multiplying itself under suitable circumstances. So they're cost effective, they're easy to detect, and they can weaponize the food systems. So what could have been the geopolitical implications of the attack? Of course, the FBI already arrested these researchers, but what could have been the possible implications? This could have caused a disruption in global food supply chain, because of the food shortage that could have happened because of the infestation of the wheat crops, barley, maize and rice crops. Then there could have been impact of food security, because if there is a disruption in the food supply chain, there is going to be food shortage. This food shortage will lead to price rise, and in turn this is going to have an effect on the food security. There could have been trade disruptions. Trade disruptions meaning that the companies could have imposed bans on China. So they could have imposed the bans on the country from where the infection is coming. In this case, it was China. And in that, if there's a country that's heavily reliant on export-import for its economy, if trade sanctions are placed on that, then the economy of that country will also have to suffer a lot. And diplomatic tensions. We are already aware of the ongoing tariff war between US and China. And amidst all this, if this pathogen attack was also, could also have just materialized, then this could have been causing severe effects on the diplomatic tensions between US and China. Have there been any past incidents? Yes, there have been past incidents. For example, in 1991 in Kuwait, when the Iraqi forces were retreating, they set fire to 600 oil wells. So there was an oil spill, and then it was kind of a black acid rain, and that created a conducive environment for a related strain of Fusarium to thrive that contaminated up to 99% of Kuwait's freshwater reserves. So 99% is almost 100%, like almost all the freshwater reserves of Kuwait were contaminated because of this oil spill. So this is what happened in Kuwait. Did something happen in India? So yes, India also suffered something, not on such a great scale, but in 2015, there was an outbreak of cotton leaf curl virus in Pakistan, but this led to a severe infestation of white fly in southern Punjab. Why southern Punjab? Because Punjab is a neighboring state, it's a border state, it borders Pakistan. So this outbreak of cotton leaf curl virus led to a severe infestation of white fly in southern Punjab, which damaged 2/3 of our cotton crop. So our cotton crop was also damaged, and there is an official figure that this led to 15 farmer suicides. Now this is the official figure. Unofficially, it would definitely have been higher. So something happened in Pakistan, but it also caused a devastating effect on the cotton crops in India, because this is a border state, and this is a special issue, kind of a problem with India, that all our agricultural states like Punjab, Himachal Pradesh or Rajasthan, they are all at the borders with hostile neighbors like Pakistan and China. So we need to be specially careful, specially surveillant about these agro-terrorism attacks. So are there any global conventions in place? Because this biological warfare is globally accepted. There are some global conventions in place, like the Biological Weapons Convention of 1972. So this convention covers almost everything. It talks about prohibition on the development, production, stockpiling of biological and toxin weapons and their destruction. So it covers everything. It came into force in 1975, and India has signed and ratified it. So we've also signed it and ratified, meaning our parliament has also provided a formal assent to it, and we've started implementing laws on the same, in the same direction. Other than the Biological Weapons Convention, there was another protocol, that is Geneva Protocol of 1925. So this talks about the prohibition of the use in the war of asphyxiating, poisonous or other gases and of bacteriological methods of warfare. So what are asphyxiating gases? These are those gases which either reduce or displace the oxygen in the surrounding, and a person dies of suffocation due to the lack of oxygen. So this protocol talks about the prohibition of the use of these gases in warfare, and it happened in 1925. At that time, India was not independent. We were under the British rule. So at that time, we had not acceded to the treaty. But in 1960, after independence, India acceded to it. Then there is another one, that is the United Nations Security Council Resolution number 1540, which came in 2004. Now this prevents non-state actors like terrorist groups from acquiring WMDs or weapons of mass destruction. And those weapons could be nuclear, chemical and also biological. So these weapons of mass destructions are capable of causing destruction on a very large scale, and they could be nuclear, chemical or biological. So this convention or this resolution recognizes the biological warfare also. It obligates the states to adopt national measures to prevent the proliferation of WMDs in legislation, enforcement and also export controls. Now what is India doing? India also has some domestic laws and policies like the Environment Protection Act of 1986. This is like an umbrella scheme which converges all our environment conservation efforts, and we have also recognized biohazard as a potential hazard, as a serious problem in the environmental efforts in the environment's pollution. So we have understood biohazard is a problem here in Environment Protection Act. Then there is Disaster Management Act of 2005, which talks about being prepared for all kinds of disasters, and this also includes biological disasters. Then we have the Epidemic Diseases Act of 1897, Now, this explicitly does not mention biohazard, but it gives the state broad powers to deal with all forms of epidemics, and those epidemics could also have arisen from any biological pathogen or any bioweapon. So this is covered in Epidemics Act also. And then we have the Food Safety and Standards Act 2006, which created the FSSAI, Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, which is responsible with the safety and regulation of all the food that we consume, that the food should be edible, it should be free from all forms of infections. So this is what the FSSAI does. So India is also doing some things on its own domestic level. The world is also doing some things. So what could be the way forward? Some key takeaways and way forward. So we've already established that biological agents can disrupt the food supplies and economies because they can cause food shortage, reduction in production, price rise, and trade disruptions and everything. So they can cause food supplies and economy disruption. Agroterrorism poses a real risk to food security and farmer livelihoods. So what can be done instead? We can strengthen biosurveillance and crop resistance, which is essential for protection. So if you recall, there's a crop, BT cotton. It's a genetically modified crop which is resistant to a bacteria, the Bacillus bacteria, Bacillus thuringiensis. So this is what we've already developed, and we need to have more such crops in place so that they are resistant to all forms of biological pathogens. And then international cooperation is also critical to prevent and respond to biological attacks. So that was all for today's video. Let's quickly practice a question for prelims and mains. Consider the following statements regarding Fusarium head blight. It mainly affects pulses like lentils and chickpeas. It is caused by a fungus that can also produce harmful mycotoxins. So mycotoxins, wherever you see the word myco, it is associated with fungus. Mycotoxins or fungal toxins. Which of the following statements are correct? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, and neither 1 nor 2. Also, there's a question for mains because this is important for your GS paper 3. Discuss the implications of agroterrorism using biological pathogens on India's food security. Suggest measures to strengthen India's biosecurity preparedness. Try and answer this question in 250 words. That was all for today's video. Until we meet the next time, please keep studying and keep revising.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.